The best way to get what you want in life is to deserve what you want. How could it be otherwise? It's not crazy enough so that the world is looking for a lot of undeserving people to reward. You don't want to be like the motion picture executive in California, and they said the funeral was so large because everybody wanted to make sure he was dead. Yeah, I think you would understand any presentation using the word EBITDA if every time you saw that word, you just substituted the phrase bullshit earnings. Well, there are a whole lot of things I don't think about. And one of them is companies that are losing $2 or $3 billion a year and going public.
People don't seem to get that point. You have any idea why, Charlie?
Warren, if people weren't so often wrong, we wouldn't be so rich.
No.
That does not mean we approve of every buyback at all, though. I mean, we've seen...
No. Yeah. I think some people just buy it to keep the stock up. And that, of course, is insane and immoral. But apart from that, it's fine. Everybody wants fiscal virtue, but not quite yet. They're like that guy who felt that way about sex. He was willing to give it up, but not quite yet. The general system for money management requires people to pretend that they can do something that they can't do, and to pretend to like it when they really don't. I think that's a terrible way to spend your life, but it's very well paid. And in accounting, you can do things like they do in Italy when they have trouble with the mail. It piles up and irritates the postal employees. They just throw away a few carloads, and then everything flows smoothly thereafter.
Folks. That happened in some unnamed international country.
Yeah, Italy. I'm optimistic about life. If I can be optimistic when I'm nearly dead, surely the rest of you can handle a little inflation. It was investment banker-aided fraud.
Yeah.
Not exactly novel.
I've listened to so many nonsensical cost of capital discussions that
I've never heard an intelligent one. Sure, there are a lot of things in life way more important than wealth. All that said, some people do get confused. I play golf with a man, he says, what good is health? You can't buy money with it. But those of you who are about to enter business school or who there, I recommend you learn to do it our way, but at least until you're out of school, you have to pretend to do it their way.
Charlie's big on lowering expectations.
Absolutely. That's the way I got married. My wife lowered her expectations. And yet it's perfectly obvious, at least to me, that to say that derivative accounting in America is a sewer is an insult to sewage. I don't like multitasking. I see these people doing three things at once, and I think, God, what a terrible way that is to think. I like cryptocurrencies a lot less than you do. And I think the people who are professional traders that go into trading cryptocurrencies, it's just disgusting. It's like somebody else is trading turds and you decide I can't be left out. Well, I can't give you a formulaic approach because I don't use one. If you want a formula, you should go back to graduate school. They'll give you lots of formulas that won't work. As Samuel Johnson said famously, I can give you an argument, but I can't give you an understanding. It's extraordinary how resistant some people are to learning anything. It's not that great a business as a business, casualty insurance. It's a tough game. There are temptations to be stupid in it. It's like banking. And
he volunteered.
No, the board at Lubrizol did not breach its duty because we were not going to participate in the transaction if they didn't do it our way. Has anybody else got an easy question? Competency is a relative concept, and what a lot of us need, including the one speaking, what I needed to get ahead was to compete against idiots, and luckily there's a large supply. And, well, I would rather throw a viper down my shirt front than hire a compensation consultant. One reminds me, once I asked a man who just left a large investment bank, and I said, how does your firm make its money? He said, off the top, off the bottom, off both sides, and in the middle. I think I've offended enough people.
Right. There's two or three in the balcony.
Now, a place like Berkshire Hathaway or even the Daily Journal, we've done better than average. And now there's a question, why has that happened? Why has that happened? And the answer is pretty simple. We tried to do less. We never had the illusion we could just hire a bunch of bright young people and they would know more than anybody about canned soup and aerospace and utilities and so on and so on and so on. We never had that dream. We never thought we could get really useful information on all subjects, like Jen Kramer tends to have. And if you take the modern world, where people are trying to teach you how to come in and trade actively in stocks.
What's up, Tim Sykes, millionaire mentor and trader here. I want to teach you, I want to help you.
Well, I regard that as roughly equivalent to trying to induce a bunch of young people to start off on heroin.
We're here to support you. I want to see you on this jet with us next time. It's awesome, and you can totally do it. You love Jutsu. You love Jutsu. Admit it. You just don't know it.
It is really stupid. And when you're already rich, to make your money by encouraging people to get rich by trading.
If you're a millionaire, why sell a course?
And then there are people on the TV, and they say, I have this book that will teach you how to make 300% a year.
The Millionaire Booklet's going to give you 8 steps, and guess what?
All you have to do is pay for shipping.
First, you're going to pay shipping and handling.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. The people who do this all day think they're useful citizens, but they mislead you on purpose. And I get tired of it, and I don't think it's right.
You're giving away your free book. You just try to sell me stuff. Of course I am. I have no shame. I have no guilt. I have no hesitation.
Charlie and I were on a plane recently that was hijacked.
With what?
It was hijacked. I'm telling about our experience on that hijacked plane when the hijackers picked us out as the 2 dirty capitalists that they really had to execute. But they were a little abashed about it. They didn't really have anything against us. So they said that each of us would be given one request before they shot us. And they turned to Charlie and they said, what would you like as your request? Charlie said, I would like to give once more my speech on the virtues of Costco with illustrations. And the hijacker said, well, that sounds pretty reasonable to me. And he turned to me and said, and what would you like, Mr. Buffett? And I said, shoot me first.
It's Andreas Rieger from Munich, Germany. Thank you very much for the open discussion that you have with us. Actually, I'd like to ask a question on a book, so I come back to the book review. Jeremy Siegel had some ideas in his second book, and I would like to understand how this would impact your investment strategies, if there are any changes from his ideas, and how you react to these recommendations that he makes. Thank you.
This is which book? Jeremy Spiegel?
Jeremy Siegel, the second book, Why the Try and the True Triumph Over the Old and the New.
No, it's had no effect on us. Charlie?
No, is that the fellow who is very optimistic about common stock investment over long periods of time?
The University of Pennsylvania, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think he's demented.
Well, he's a very nice guy, Charlie.
Well, he may well be a very nice guy, but he's comparing apples against elephants and trying to make accurate projections.
Number 10.
The muscle power of the Sam's Clubs and the Costco's has gotten very extreme. A little earlier this morning when I was autographing books, a very good-looking woman came up to me and said she wanted to thank me. And I said, for what? And she said, you told me to buy this pantyhose I'm wearing from Costco. And I'd evidently made some previous comment about how amazing it was that Costco could get Hanes, of all people, to allow a co-branded pantyhose, Hanes-Kirkland, in the Costco stores. That wouldn't have happened 20 years ago.
She must have been pretty desperate if she was consulting with you on where to buy pantyhose, Charlie. If you could own one business in the world, what would it be, Charlie? I hope I already own them myself.
You and I got in trouble by addressing such a subject many decades
That's
ago.
right.
And I don't think I'll come back to it.
Okay. Number 13.
If you name some business that has incredible pricing power, you're talking about a business that's a monopoly or a near monopoly.
Sure.
And I don't think it's very smart for us to sit up here naming as our most admired businesses something that other people regard as a monopoly.
Okay. We'll move right along.
Well, I think the right strategy for the great mass of humanity is to specialize. Nobody wants to go to a doctor that's half proctologist and half dentist, And I tell young lawyers who frequently come to me and say, how can I quit practicing law and become a billionaire instead? And so I say, well, it reminds me of a story they told about Mozart. A young man came to him and he said, I want to compose symphonies and I want to talk to you about that. And Mozart said, how old are you? And the man said, 22. And Mozart said, you're too young to do symphonies. And the guy said, but you were writing symphonies when you were 10 years old. He says, yes, but I wasn't running around asking other people how to do it.
Carol, we wish you well. And in investment management at Berkshire, and I think they'll be right more often than they're wrong. Charlie?
Well, Warren and I are a little older than some people, and
Damn near everybody.
and we're not the most flexible, probably in the whole world. And of course, if something as extreme as this internet development happens, and you don't catch it, why, other people are going to blow by you. And I don't mind not having caught Amazon early. The guy is kind of a miracle worker. It's very peculiar. I give myself a pass on that. But I feel like a horse's ass for not identifying Google better. I think Warren feels the same way.
Yeah.
We screwed up.
He's saying we blew it. And we did have some insights into that because we were using them at Geico and we were seeing the results produced, and we saw that we were paying $10 a click or whatever it might have been for something that at a marginal cost to them it was exactly zero, and we saw it was working for us. So
we can see in our own operations how well that Google advertising was working, and we just sat there sucking our thumbs. So we're ashamed. We atone. We're trying to atone. Maybe Apple was atonement.
when he says sucking our thumbs, I'm just glad he didn't use some other example. That was the most interesting thing. Actually, I didn't have any cash at the time, and I went down and borrowed the money, and I bought it for my wife, and I borrowed the money, and the loan officer said, "Would you like to borrow some money to buy a shotgun as well?" Charlie, tell them about the one you missed.
Well, I have two investments that come to mind. When I was young and poor, I spent $1,000 once buying an oil royalty that paid me $100,000 a year for a great many years. But I only did that once in a lifetime. On a later occasion, I bought a few shares of Elridge Oil, which went up 30 times rather quickly. But I turned down 5 times as much as I bought. It was the dumbest decision of my whole life. So if any of you have made any dumb decisions, look up here and feel good about yourself. And I also want to report that your vice chairman is getting new social distinction. I've been invited during this gathering to go to a happy hour put on by the Bitcoin people. And I've tried to figure out what the Bitcoin people do in their happy hour, and I finally figured it out. They celebrate the life and work of Judas Iscariot.
Is your invitation still good? Well, Bitcoin actually, on my honeymoon in 1952, my bride 19 and I 21 stopped in Las Vegas. We just got, my Aunt Alice gave me the car and said, have a good time, and we went west. So we stopped in the Flamingo, and I looked around, and I saw all of these well-dressed, they dressed better in those days, well-dressed people who had come, in some cases, thousands of miles away. And this was before jets, so transportation wasn't as good. And they came to do something that every damn one of them knew was mathematically dumb. And I told Susie, I said, we are going to make a lot of money. I mean, imagine people going to stick money on some roulette number with a 0 and a 00 there and knowing the percent. They all could do it, and they just do it. And I have to say, Bitcoin has rejuvenated that feeling in me. Charlie and I have seen the extremes in human behavior, and in so many unexpected ways. And
Now we get it every night. Yeah, extremes of human behavior.
Yeah.
All we got to do is turn on the television.
Yeah. I'm glad he used that example. We generate ideas and investment, and we do not believe in telling the world what we're doing every day, except to the extent that we're legally required. But it's a good idea. Charlie?
Well, one of the reasons we have trouble with these questions is because Berkshire is so very peculiar. There's only one thing like it. We have a different kind of unbureaucratic way of making decisions. There aren't any people in headquarters. We don't have endless committees deliberating forever and making bad decisions. We're radically different, and it's awkward being so different. But I don't want to be like everybody else because this has worked better. So I think you're just going to have to endure us. Well, all my ancestors came from Northern Europe, so I'm very partial to the place. On the other hand, if you ask me how I would vote on Brexit if I lived in Britain, I don't even know. It just strikes me as a horrible problem. And I'm glad it's theirs, not mine.
But if I called you tomorrow and said we had a deal in UK, you'd tell me.
I would go in a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those
are my kind of people. I understand them.
Yeah.
Well, I don't own any indexes. And I have always been willing to own just 2 or 3 stocks. And I have not minded that everybody who teaches finance in law school and business school teaches that what I'm doing is wrong. It isn't wrong. It's worked beautifully. I don't think you need a portfolio of 50 stocks if you know what you're doing. And I hope my heirs will just sit.
My heirs hope that I'll change my will.
I once told a very great man at dinner after he'd written a very great book, I said, you know, you're never going to write another great book like that. And he was deeply offended. And I've read his 4 subsequent books, and I'm totally right. To write one great book is a lot to do in one lifetime. And the people aren't holding back on you when they don't do more. It's hard.
Yeah. But you ought to make the most of the first one you got.
Yes.
Yeah, you're lucky, you know. And,
yes.
We were very fortunate. I would have blown the chance to buy See's Candy, but Charlie said, "Don't be so cheap," basically, and we still still got it at a pretty good price. And we
It's
learned a lot.
amazing how much we've learned over the years.
Yeah,
and if we hadn't, the record would be so much worse.
Yeah.
At any given time, what we already knew was not going to be enough to take us to the next step. That's what makes it difficult. Think of all the people you know that have tried to take one extra step and have fallen off a cliff.
Well, on that happy note, we will conclude the meeting. And